Well, hi Chris, Greg here. Another installment of the garden. Let's see, it is Saturday, I think the 23rd. Yeah. And been a while since I took a tape. And I figure I'll walk around. I'm not really sure what to expect. I haven't been here for... I haven't really had a chance to do any work for a while, for a few days. Didn't even stop down yesterday or the day before. Gonna have to water today. Today is day 4, maybe day 5 of a record of just a remarkable heat wave here. Yesterday it hit 103 at the airport, which is believe it or not, literally a new all-time high for as long as I've been keeping records. The previous record was 102. So I'm gonna do a quick walk around and share what I see with you. It's about that point in the summer, maybe not quite there, but it's kind of to the point where the garden starts looking a little ratty, a little overgrown, maybe some weeds here and there. But the biggest thing, particularly for my garden, is water. As you know, I don't really have water down here, so we've had this heat wave and we have not had rain in quite some time. So things are going to be real dry. Let me see if I can see that. Well, I don't think I got it on tape, but I just saw a white moth flying around. It's just one, so I'm not terribly worried, but that's probably not a good sign, because that is the moth that cabbage worms hatch into. And cabbage worms are big eaters of broccoli and cabbage and anything like that. So I'll need to check those, see if I have any pests over there, and pick them off if I can see them. Sunflowers look good. Those have to be 8-9 feet tall by now, just to put it in perspective, so those are pretty nice. Anyway, here are the Romas. You can see I've already picked a bunch of ripe Romas. There's another ripe one down there. In between was that basil I told you would get crowded out. I'm going to come down and pick that. It's going to seed, so I'm going to pick that pretty hard today. It's going to be so hot today, I think Karen probably won't mind staying in the air conditioning and making some pesto. But that's up to her. We'll see. Ground is really dry. Holy smokes. Alright, here are the cucumbers. You can see they're working their way up that trellis, which is good. I see I've got some for picking. Couple of got a bunch for picking. This looks good. A couple of English varieties. So going to be a good day for cucumbers, and the nicest thing to see, always happy to see it. Look at that, my friend. One of the most underappreciated and one of the most important parts of a garden, all agriculture, whether it's a garden, even big commercial industrial agriculture, or bees. I may have told you, there's a big industry where they take beehives, put them on trucks, and they transport them from farmer's field to farmer's field to better pollinate the crops at just the right time. You can see these tomatoes got so tall, they're much taller than the stakes I had, unfortunately. So it won't hurt them, they'll fall over and it's going to look messy for the rest of the summer, but I should still get a lot of tomatoes. Now here's something, this is not good. I forget what they call this. This is one of the heirlooms, but if you look at the bottom of these tomatoes, see how black they are? They're no good. I'll have to do a little research on that. I don't think it's because of the drought, but it might be. It could be the heat, but I think it has something to do with insufficient calcium or some mineral in the soil. But it could be the heat as well. Darn it. Because I'm looking to have a great crop of heirlooms. So I'll have to do a little research on that and see if there's anything I can do to salvage some. Kind of disappointing. Peppers seem to be growing great. I see some wilting on some of them, which is a sign of stress from the heat. I see some burned peppers. Well, that's all the negative. I don't mean to be so negative, but I just, looking for a few things. Mostly I'm seeing some good groups of peppers, and ought to have a pretty darn good hoping to have a pretty darn good harvest. Swiss chard, which is, as I've told you before, one of the easiest and most rugged, toughest plants, is looking stressed out. Once again, this is from the terrible heat and just literally no rain. If I dig down in the soil, you won't find any moisture at all. Look at the brown leaves. That's in sharp contrast to how vigorous and green and rich they were just a week ago. Nice variety of sunflower right there. Happy to see another bee doing its work. Alright, which way to go? We'll start down this way. Alright, here are those pots. This one is producing some cucumbers, but this experiment is working. I would give it a B. The problem with that is that this has a sort of an artificial mix in it, and it dries out. It literally has to be watered every day, especially with 3 cucumber plants sucking moisture out of it. It's a big pot. I think I showed you. I'm guessing that's a 10-gallon pot, so it's a good-sized pot. But even so, it's I haven't watered it for a day. Maybe it might be as much as 2, but no more than that. And the plants are really stressed and maybe even shot. So it's a great idea. You don't get any, to grow it in that mix, but only if you're able to water it every day. Eggplant, which, here we go. Another bee up and in there. Kind of interesting. I've been, you notice, I don't know if you notice the difference, maybe you're not, but look at the different type of bee this is. All these eggplant blossoms have that same type of bee. I don't really know my bee species, but one's a bumblebee, one's a honeybee. I think this is a bumblebee. But as I look around on these others, they all have that species of bee on it. The sunflower and the tomatoes over there had honeybees on there, not the bumblebee. These plants are absolutely, completely loaded with blossoms. So these plants look great. Every time I've been down here, I've taped, and I think I've commented on how great the eggplant look. And the blossoms are just remarkable, but I can't put my finger on it. They're nice big plants, strong stems, good branching, but there are only a couple of tiny fruit on them. They have a lot of blossoms, so the potential is good, but it's already, 3rd week of July. I started these in the greenhouse. I would have expected to have more eggplant coming along, getting ready to be picked by now. So, I don't know, it sounds like I'm being too critical to that this morning. It's really more that I always try to learn. I try to be objective with my analysis. So even though when eggplant look great, as in my previous videos I've said how great they looked, and they look fantastic now, but I'm a little disappointed with the heat, or with the lack of fruit. Worry a little bit when you have that kind of heat, believe it or not, even heat-loving crops like eggplant, tomatoes, peppers, sometimes those blossoms, when it gets excessive heat like that, they don't set fruit, and they just bloom and fall off, and you never get anything. Some frying peppers here coming along, little basil mixed in between. These look fine. Some green beans here. Now here's something interesting. I've had this happen before. I'm doggone sure I planted bush beans here. But see those runners? That runner there? That looks like a doggone pole bean. I mean, that's 3 feet, 4 feet long. So I suppose it is theoretically possible that I mixed it up and I took them out of the wrong container, but I don't think so. I think something got mismarked or something. Some more squash. We'll go over to the other big squash where I've been picking. I haven't picked these. These are young ones. So let me see. Okay, I just saw. I don't know if you can see it, but right there it is. He's flying away. So there's several. All right. So I got several of these cabbage worm moths flying around here. I need to pay attention to that. This Swiss chard looks a little bit better. And I think there's a couple of reasons for it. You notice I'm growing this differently. These are individual plants mulched with grass around it, as opposed to that great big row. Plus, last time I watered a week ago or something, these did get some water. So, taking a little extra care and growing them like this, and the plants look significantly better. Beets coming along. Zucchini, again, this is a second planting of zucchini. I've told you before that they really only produce effectively or produce well for a few weeks, and then they sort of decline rapidly. So one thing I've done well this year is I've had good succession planting of the squash. So these will kick in another week and really start producing. And then my last planting of squash, I've got some zucchini there and some summer squash here. So I'm reasonably optimistic we'll have squash until the end of the summer. More than we can eat, of course. For the life of me, I don't understand what's taking these pole beans so long. I think in my second video, which was a long time ago, I predicted they'd be to the top in a week, and they're just a couple of them are reaching the top right now. We'll see. We should get some pretty soon. So you can see things, like I told you at the beginning, it's, looking a little messy in spots. Don't really have the time to keep after everything and have it perfectly neat. But things are coming along. Here's our big bed of winter squash, and that is an immature butternut squash, which is our favorite winter squash. It's coming along. You can see how, I don't know if you can tell it on the camera, but this had been really rich and green and thick, and the inside where it's been so dry, the inside is starting to, some of the plants are starting to tire and fade back a little bit. I see a bunch of other winter squash in there, which is a good thing. And here's a different variety of winter squash. I don't know if you've ever had it. They'll grow significantly bigger than that, but that's spaghetti squash. You kind of steam it, I guess, or bake it, and then you take it out with a fork, and it actually, when you eat it, it's just like spaghetti. But it's squash instead. It's got that sort of texture and the shape of lines of spaghetti. These are the sort, I say the original. This is the first planting of squash. You can see how big and vibrant these plants are. Once again, peek in there. See a nice bumblebee doing its, or honeybee, I think, doing its business. And I've got several yellow squash to pick, and a bunch of zucchini. Some of them are a little too big. I mean, they'll still be good. We'll use them, but all right. What else? Now I'll be looking for those white moths here, because this is what they really eat a lot. Now, unfortunately, this heat is really bad for brassicas, for all these Brussels sprouts and everything. Here's a head of broccoli that is just terrible. It's forming in this heat, and it's a little tiny, and it's yellow, it's not green. That's indeed disappointing. Here's another one. So these plants are looking okay. They're looking pretty healthy, but the broccoli is not doing well at all in terms of forming heads. The Brussels sprouts are coming along, but I don't really see any sprouts along the stem yet. And much to my surprise, the cabbage actually looks good. Never really grown cabbage before, so I sort of don't know what to expect, but they're coming along. Then we're back here. few more Swiss chard here, and a few more peppers, some beans. I guess everything looks okay. This is kale. Never grown it before. It's supposed to be a delicious green. And this is basil. It's been eaten by Japanese beetles, but I'm not gonna spray it. I don't want to spray it because you eat the leaves, and I'm just hoping, you know, they don't eat everything, and what survives kind of produces enough basil for us. All right, so that's the tour. I guess these, you know, dog days of summer. I wish it was you know, a little bit better than it is, but it's not the end of the world. I'll spend some time down here today duking it up, and things will improve. This heat wave's going to break, and when the heat wave breaks, I think we'll have things will improve a little bit better. All right, so that's it for the video. Hope you're doing well. Take care.